Everybody, welcome back to Beans No Ball here for the Week 16 recap. Hope everyone had a Merry Christmas. Hope everyone enjoyed their time with their family. Hopefully your team did well enough in these holiday games. So obviously, gonna get to do it a little different once again. I'm gonna get to open this up with the Rams on Thursday night, and obviously it was a great win. Obviously, once again, I was in attendance. I do get to flex my little rally towel right here. Really good to close out the home slate at SoFi with a really good win. I mean, obviously started out great, of course. What were we? I think that 30-7 that we ended up in by the fourth quarter, but unfortunately, defense did kind of get a little sloppy, just like in that Commanders game. Did get let the Saints get back in it. Once again, left it to an 8-point game. So, I mean, sure, it does leave a sour taste in the mouth to have to play these tight games. Defense not really closing games out, but at the end of the day, there's definitely more positives than negatives coming out here. Obviously, once again, Puka Nacua, another one of his generational games. Matthew Stafford keeps feeding him the ball now that Cooper Kupp probably isn't having the what we've been saying. He's still a little hampered from those early season injuries, still working his way back. Puka Nacua definitely taking over that number one role. I believe what he have 164 yards and getting into the end zone on a very crucial fourth down and goal on the first drive. And of course, Demarcus Robinson, sure, he slowed down by that second half, but himself also getting into the end zone. I believe it's 4 games in a row now. He's really shown out. I believe you could probably say he's been our wide receiver number 2, as what I've been saying about Cooper Kupp struggles. And I guess I could give Darion Kendrick a pass in this game. He didn't really have any outstanding errors, but this time Ahkello Witherspoon was the guy I'm going to be a little more stringent on. He really the pass, I believe it was against Rashid Shaheed, because I don't want to give it too much on him. I would say it's a little more on Jordan Fuller because he came in on that coverage when he should have stayed up in the zone, but he made up for it with a really nice interception on Carr. So not too mad overall with how the defense did. Jacoby Durant, someone that I was very, very high on for ever since the end of last season, did get burned a little bit on, I believe, the A.T. Perry, but very clearly we can all see in the replays there probably was some cleared OPI, but still, great win overall. Can't complain much, and Rams move into that 6th seed. Hope to see them stay right there.
Yeah, obviously the Los Angeles Rams are looking way better than we expected at the beginning of the season, and lots of implications coming to the next couple of weeks with playoffs. But obviously, with the way this team's look, they're really going to look very, very deadly as a really good sleeper team for the playoffs. Now moving on to another division battle from the AFC North, where lots of stuff for playoffs are at stake here. The Bengals and the Steelers. Now, let's just get right to the point here. George Pickens, wow, arguably had the best game of his career. And, I'm a little salty. I didn't start him in fantasy, but obviously a lot of people really killed me. Lost by 4 points. But, saltiness aside, it really does look like George Pickens is finally getting his groove as a one potential true receiver that it really is. Obviously, with the selfishness and his pity that he's been having these past couple weeks with not getting the ball, sure, you can make the excuses. Kenny Pickett, he's, wasn't able to throw the ball as well. And obviously with Matt Canada, his departure, offense was still looking a little bit, discombobulated, as you can say. But Pickens looked really, really great against the Cincinnati defense. And, Cincinnati defense isn't, the best, but, it's serviceable for what we've been doing for the past couple of weeks. But yeah, George Pickens, this was definitely his game. Obviously, he's getting chirpy, a little talkative, here and there on social media after this game. I really don't want to assume this is going to be a game where, it's just another one-game wonder for him and he ends up doing bad, which, that's how I was with how salty I was. But obviously, jokes aside, I really like how Mason Rudolph's, looking like the quarterback that's actually getting him the ball. And the defense for the Pittsburgh, the leader on that defense, TJ Watt, obviously still putting on a great game for those Steelers. And for the Cincinnati Bengals, Jake Browning, I guess, insanity run. I wouldn't say it's, over, I guess, but that game pretty much showed his true colors after that game against Minnesota of him getting chirpy as well. But the Cincinnati Bengals team, it's still a lot of hope for them for the playoff time, but it's gonna be a little bit harder after this loss.
Yeah, obviously, we look probably is gonna hurt the Bengals a lot, but don't look now. But the Steelers, they do elevate themselves just a little bit. Could they be helping themselves get right back into the playoff picture? But of course, move into another game with some pretty big playoff implication in the Bills and the Chargers. Obviously, we've been talking about, the Bills definitely getting hot at the right time, looking favorable in that schedule, and definitely a big scare for them going into this game against the Chargers. Obviously, we expected them to dominate and, sure, a nice 4-point lead going into halftime. near the end of this game, I mean, the Chargers started coming back. Chargers really, I mean, they took the lead, I believe, right at the end, and it came down to field goal, was it? I wasn't actually watching this game, so I'll just be honest. But I mean, overall, looking at stat wise, I mean, Josh Allen, definitely. I mean, he definitely, did enough. Put up 24 points. Believe he almost had 240 yards, getting only one touchdown. But end of the day, like I said, it is enough. Turnovers still a problem though, even against a very subpar Chargers defense. We do see the turnovers are definitely still a problem. Josh Allen getting the interception, but overall, I mean, another big problem with the Buffalo offense, Stephon Diggs, once again, I believe what he put like 7.9 fantasy wise, just ever since, I believe it's been like the last 5 weeks, he's really been slowing down in production. Someone that we've kind of been down on. Gabe Davis got back into the end zone over 100 yards again. Really just a solid game for him. And I mean, for the Chargers, another loss. Really, I believe they're up to a top 5 pick right now. So I mean, in a year that nothing's been going right, bare minimum, we may get to see them get better picks for the draft.
Yeah, obviously with Brandon Stanley gone, they did seem to play a little bit better, but I wouldn't worry too much about this Buffalo Bills team, especially coming after beating a top team in the NFL. They come close to a very struggling team, but for the Buffalo Bills wise, they'll be okay, come to the next couple of games. Now moving on to another game where I guess one of the more playoff implications on the line with this one, and Atlanta really set the tone against this Indianapolis Colts team. I mean, we expected the Gardner Minshew to pretty much light up this Atlanta team with how their defense and their offense, their quarterback situation. Desmond Ridder wasn't looking too well, but obviously Desmond Ridder, he really went through that Indianapolis Colts defense, and it really showed everything. They're still in line to potential to take that the NFC South, but obviously, with the Bucks, which we'll get into later, it's gonna be a little bit difficult. Really, the Falcons, I really doubt they're gonna take the division realistically, especially looking at the next upcoming game. But the Indianapolis Colts in that AFC South division, with the struggling Jacksonville Jaguars, which we also will be getting into, the Texans, and then Tennessee, that whole division, it's merely wide open. But really slight chance that the Indianapolis Colts could take that division, but obviously this loss, it's gonna hurt them just a little bit. Really nothing more to say about this other than Drake London finally getting the production that he's been needing, let alone with Desmond Ridder at the quarterback situation. So the way Falcons are playing, it's gonna take more than beating this Indianapolis Colts team to take that division.
I think something we both forgot to think about, it wasn't Desmond Ridder, it was Taylor Heinicke getting the start in this game. And I mean, hey, maybe this can help them turn it around. We'll see. Like what we were just saying. Falcons win out. If they get some help from the Buccaneers, they will be in the playoffs. So wait and see what can cook up with the Falcons. Of course, yet another game with heavy playoff implications here with the Seattle Seahawks and Tennessee Titans. Obviously, only for the Seahawks here, and they got it done. It was looking like the Titans were going to be able to put them away, just very surprisingly on offense, without Will Levis too, which Ryan Tannehill, which he definitely looked rusty. He looked very poor overall in this game, and you could, I mean, not mobile at all. It just really looked past his prime. I mentioned a little bit, maybe Tannehill could be playing for an audition for a future team. This kind of looking, I'm pretty sure he'll probably be hanging it up by the end of the season. But I mean, hey, a valiant effort for the Titans. But regardless, very nice final drive for Geno Smith and the Seahawks to get it to, I believe it was DK to get the game-winning touchdown. Titans did have a chance to go for a game-winning drive, or at least to tie with a field goal. Nothing happened there, so the Seahawks do sneak back into that 7 seed as for now. Obviously, they do have a favorable schedule to close out the season, so their playoff chances as well are looking very much better.
Yeah, obviously with Seattle, they are looking very, very good. Obviously, Geno Smith looked a little iffy, but with the way how they are, another game-winning drive, their playoff hopes, it's still very much doable. Now moving on to the next game, which is another game that really expected one team to kind of get away with this, which they did with the Detroit Lions. I mean, against this Minnesota team that it's been having struggles with the quarterback. With Josh Jacobs and Sandy Run, and Nick Mullins finally getting the start. Even with Nick Mullins, I believe it was just 4 interceptions. I mean, this Minnesota team still came close. I mean, we finally started getting glimpses of this Detroit defense that started looking their old stuff like last year, really just letting up all those points that they really shouldn't need to, especially against this struggling Minnesota team. I mean, this defense it still struggles a bit. Both defenses were struggling this game. Jared Goff, he had a pretty alright game for the most part. But obviously, there's some plays where the game should have been really walked away with very easily. And then Nick Mullins, like I said, those 4 interceptions really costed him. You know, Minnesota really had the chance. And then Justin Jefferson, I think he was the key part of this game too with this Minnesota team. He was really doing all he could. I mean, that final drive where he was really just getting the ball most of the time. That one clutch first down that he got, it was really everything. And then that was a touchdown in the end zone. Nick Mullins just really underthrew that ball just a little bit, and that would have been the game for them for the most part. But obviously Detroit, Jared Goff, you know, they got away with this, and you know, with the Niners loss, Detroit also has a shot at that number 1 seed. Obviously, they still got to put the cards right with everything else. Same with Minnesota. Playoff implications are still in line for them, but it's going to take a lot more than Minnesota winning out in order for them to hit the playoffs.
Yeah, obviously, this is a very big loss for the Minnesota Vikings. That, you know, they were definitely in it. They were definitely in a position that they would have maintained the 6 seed with a win here. But, you know, unfortunately, now they're going to have to win out and probably get some help to make it back into that playoff picture. Of course, moving into another pretty good game going into this week. I mean, didn't expect it to, obviously, in this pretty meaningless game of the Commanders and the Jets. But looking at it now, you know, obviously you see the Jets offense surprisingly going out, what was it? I believe a 20-0, 27-7 going into halftime at this point. But all of a sudden, second half, Commanders come out as a completely different team, just absolutely firing on all cylinders. Jacoby Brissett once again really looked, I guess you could say he looked like back on his time, that one good game he had on the Patriots. But I mean, we see back-to-back weeks now, Jacoby Brissett's really been looking a whole lot different, definitely looking a lot better than Sam Howell's been looking recently. And I mean, maybe you ride out with Jacoby Brissett at the end of the season, maybe see if he's something you can, you know, build off of. Maybe Sam Howell is struggling too much. Obviously, we know how much he's been struggling with the sacks. You know, in part, it definitely is because of that terrible O-line, but also you could definitely say he holds on to the ball a lot too much. So see what goes there. Obviously, Brissett did lead the Commanders to take the lead once again, but of course someone we both know pretty well in Greg the Leg Zuerlein obviously got the Jets the win right at the end. So obviously this was just a game more of bragging rights. Probably the Jets would have wanted to lose this and thinking about draft position, but at the end of the day, great moral victory for New York.
Yeah, obviously really meaningless game, and obviously smart for Washington to, you know, pretty much lose the game for better draft stock, but obviously, like you said, better for more support for this New York Jets team. Now moving on to another game that we really started to open some eyes with this Green Bay team. I mean, the fact that they kept it a close game against the Carolina Panthers. I mean, Jordan Love, he had that nice stretch of games not that long ago. Finally starting to look like the quarterback for Green Bay, and then obviously he went to a decline. This is some worrying you should start picking up for this Green Bay team, and Jordan Love is really the answer. You know, I've had high hopes for Jordan Love this season. Obviously, he was looking pretty well. He had that slump, and then he's finally having that resurgence. So it was really looking good for Green Bay. But to keep it close with this Carolina team that's been struggling from day in, day out this season, the defense struggling everywhere, and the offense not being able to produce with Bryce Young and having no weapons all around the ball, and, you know, with Frank Reich getting fired, and then, you know, I guess you could say the coaching held them back, which, you know, you could say the least, but you really expect the Green Bay to pretty much walk away with this. But the story for the Packers is this defense, it's bad. You can see it's bad for the most part. I mean, letting this, you know, pretty low offense of the Carolina Panthers to even get, you know, a couple touchdowns on this Green Bay defense and having Jordan Love to put this team on his back, it says a lot. And even coming to that final drive, I mean, realistically, if Carolina snapped that ball, who knows? Obviously, it's what ifs, who knows? But obviously, you know, it was really a game of seconds. But obviously, still keeps Green Bay in the race for playoffs. Still a lot of implications in the line for them. It's going to take, like I said, it's another team where it's going to take more than them winning out to get to there. But as for Carolina, just wait for the draft, get Bryce Young all the help he needs, which is something we've been saying all season.
We shall see how much help they can get, obviously, without that first round pick. But hey, if you find some late round gems, you never know what can go on in Carolina. Of course, moving on, you know, yet another game full of playoff implications here in the Jaguars and the Buccaneers. Obviously, we've been talking about Trevor Lawrence. You know, he was cleared. He was gonna make that start, but I mean, you know, big surprise here. We could definitely, you know, with confidence say it was that injury was definitely gonna be a bother to him. And believe what, they start out 30-0. Sure, you know, they got those 2 touchdowns to make it a little closer, but I mean, at the end of the day, you know, what we talked about from the start, we called this game a Buccaneers win, and, you know, Baker Mayfield, he stays riding on his high horse. really still playing phenomenally. Obviously, a step down from that win against the Packers last week, but I mean, still almost 300 yards and 2 touchdowns. Really, probably in one of the best stretches of his young career so far. And I mean, right now in prime position to take the South, still in prime position to probably get a winning record out of this division, which probably nobody expected. What they started, I believe they started 4-7, and they've rattled off 4 in a row recently. So no, I mean, Buccaneers definitely looking like one of the hotter teams right now. Who knows? They could probably even make some noise in the playoffs if they keep playing their cards right.
Yeah, there's obviously once again, another great win for the Buccaneers, especially with the way Baker's been playing against, a struggling Jacksonville team. But, obviously Baker, the way he's been playing, they look really good in the playoffs. Now, moving on to another game that, I guess it was a good game between these two teams, where there's nothing really at stake for the most part, I guess you can say. But for starters, I want to say Justin Fields, he's really, finally having a bounce back. And I mean, we had this earlier, really fighting for that job. And obviously a lot of people saying like, oh, Caleb Williams to the Bears, this and that, blah, blah, blah. But these past couple of weeks, Justin Fields, he's been really putting on a show for this Bears team. Obviously, there's really nothing they can really fight for at that point. They do have the #1 pick. So obviously, if Justin Fields can roll out these last two games playing well, much so for this Bears team to add him a weapon, and that's really what they need. Because I know DJ Moore, with the loss of him, that's really struggled. But Justin Fields is really getting more involved in the pass game, and that's something that you never really saw him in his first couple years in the league. That's the thing that really struggled. Like, he wasn't a good passer. He was a great runner, don't get me wrong, but come pass-wise, that's where he really struggled. The pressure got to him, and, interceptions, turnovers, all of that. He really couldn't get the ball moving forward for this offense. But now, he was really looking like he could. Sure, it's this Arizona Cardinals team, but, with Kyler's back and, Kyler and this Cardinals team, they're actually getting points on the board, keeping, I guess, somewhat close for the most part, than just having a shitter. But really, Justin Fields, he's really fighting for this job, and he's looking really phenomenal. So I wouldn't, necessarily go for the quarterback in the draft. Obviously, a lot of things can change for the most part, but Justin Fields, he's really looking good. And as for the Cardinals, Kyler Murray, I think we've already talked about this long ago, but ride with Kyler Murray. That's probably the smartest thing to do for this Arizona Cardinals team. There's no point of drafting a quarterback in this upcoming draft. Kyler Murray, he needs weapons. Kyler is still young. Obviously, that ACL injury, it's still looking like it's still affecting him a bit, but without a doubt, he is playing a slightly little bit better. And next season, get him all the help he needs. And this Cardinals team, they're going to look really good for the next couple years. But obviously, Kyler Murray, it's really the question on him.
Yeah, and I think you can say the same thing about both these teams. That, exactly what you said. Both these teams, a lot of talk about going for quarterback. Definitely got a great franchise quarterback right here in your back pocket, and see what you can draft to, give them some help. Of course, going back to another game that, sneakily does also have some pretty big implications in the Browns and the Texans. So we see Joe Flacco, just his magical ride continues. Once again, 3 touchdowns, edging towards 400 yards. But, those 2 interceptions really were what made this game a little closer than you probably would have liked. But, at the end of the day, the Browns keep cooking. They hold that 5 seed right at the moment for the AFC playoff picture. And for the Texans, they're starting to fall back out. At the end of the day, all the top end teams, all the teams in the AFC South came out with a loss, so they still hold that 3-way tie for first place in that division. So still a lot to be played for the last couple weeks, and a lot of implications that we will end up getting into. But maybe Case Keenum can work some magic from what he did back in 2017. But just mainly for the Browns, division's still in play. Obviously, a loss here would have been what could have given the Ravens the division, but not just yet. We'll wait and see if they still, believe back in 6 weeks ago, my pick of the Browns winning the division can come back to pay off.
Yeah, obviously, the Browns, they could very much win this division. Other than just winning out, there's a lot of other scenarios they need to happen in order to accomplish this, which, could happen, don't get me wrong, but obviously it's going to be a long shot for this. And now moving on to, once again, another disappointing game from my Dallas Cowboys. Obviously, I'm actually going to get a little bit more in depth with this. Obviously, starting off, this defense is starting to finally become overrated. I really don't know what Dan Quinn's doing with this play calling. Sure, there's a lot of excuses that I can make. Sure, we're missing some D tackles that are really not helping us with the run game, which, for the most part, we did stop Mostert and A-Chain for the most part in the run game, so that really kept the pressure off us. And then our linebacker position, I've had a high praise for Damone Clark and excuse me, Jabril Cox, and Marquise Bell. I'm just kidding, not Cox. He's with the Commanders now. It was Marquise Bell and Damone Clark. I really had a high praise for both two. Bell's really having a nice, good year at the linebacker position, but obviously there is still some flaws with that, and the linebacker core is still a little weak. They're still young. They don't know the key fundamentals of being the linebacker, especially with how Dan can run that defense. They're still young, and I know they can pick it up, but that's really another struggle here. And then obviously with the Trayvon Diggs not being here, it's still coming back to haunt us for the most part. Blandon and Gilmore, they had a serviceable game. Don't get me wrong, a lot of big plays led up, which really really did struggle us. And that final drive, the defense needed one stop. That's all we needed. But the face mask with Damone Clark that gave him the free 15 yards after putting, I think it was A-Chain in the backfield, that flag right there really cost us the game if we're going to be realistic. And the first drive on offense, that first drive was perfect. Dak was getting the ball to CD, run game was okay, play calling was great that first drive, and then that fumble, it's once again, that's another thing that's going to come back to haunt us realistically. And again, another hypothetical situation, the game could have been ours if we really got that touchdown, but a lot of what ifs. And then Dak Prescott once again, it's hurting his MVP resume once again with this loss, but he played a phenomenal game. I know a lot of people on social media everywhere already rushing to blame Dak when this was not his fault. After that first drive, O-line wasn't blocking. I can't pronounce his name, but Oduga, something like that, or backup, and then Terrence Steele. They were getting cooked out game twice, I believe. Steele and Oduga once they left Bradley Chubb unblocked, and that was two key plays in the red zone that really could have been more time for Dak for a touchdown, one of which where he didn't let Bradley on block. He had Ferguson open, and if first thing it was in the target, Brandon Cooks ended up getting open on a shallow cross, which is really again would have won us the game. So that O-line really wasn't helping at all. And then once again, other than CD, McCarthy's play calling really wasn't helping the receivers get open. Once again, Dak had no time to throw the ball. He had no time to throw the ball whatsoever. Once again, putting this team on his back when it really mattered the most. That game-winning drive was almost perfect. We were getting the calls that we needed, and then we were getting the calls when we needed. But again, we couldn't finish. This is another game like the Philly game. We were in position to win this game, and once again, the Cowboys shot themselves in the foot. Lots of things to blame within this whole team, but for sure, Dak Prescott's not the one to blame. Especially showing it kind of, boosts his MVP stat just a little bit to show that this team really revolves around Dak Prescott. That he is not the product. He is what makes this offense go. And this is what really scary about me, especially coming to a game against the Detroit Lions, which once again I will get into it more. But realistically, this defense really needs to step up. Dan Quinn, he really needs to make really a lot of adjustments, because that's one thing he has been making in the Buffalo game and this game. No halftime adjustments, and that's what's really costing us these games. And let alone for that one seed with Niners losing, which again get into in a bit, that would have instantly helped us way better shot. And if Philly needs to lose one more game, but obviously it's a lot of what ifs with this Dallas Cowboys team. And I want to say I still have hope for this team to go, but obviously a lot of adjustments need to be made come playoff time.
Yeah, obviously a lot of frustrations with these back-to-back losses. Definitely can see that, but yeah, we'll wait and see if the Cowboys can clean it up come playoff time. And of course, close out the Sunday slate with our holiday special on NFL Network. And I mean, I don't think anyone was too excited about this one. The Patriots and the Broncos definitely became a little more surprising than anyone would have expected. Sure, the Broncos, they made Bailey Zappi look like Brady at times. Just jokes there, but nobody expected. Let's just talk about the third quarter alone. 20 points for the Patriots. We've seen this Patriots offense has just been absolute dog shit for most of the season. Not really getting anything going throughout the entire season. And to get 20 points, just to get the offense clicking, I guess, you could say it's a great sign for the future. It's a great sign for maybe what can come into the following season. But at the end of the day, a win like this really does just make you scratch your head. Just why are you still not really putting that much effort? You go from the number 2 pick to the number 4 pick here, and that's really going to kill your chance at getting one of those top quarterbacks, which, in my eyes, they probably were still going to be able to get Caleb Williams, but now it's maybe Jaden Daniels if you're lucky looking into these scenarios. But regardless, like I said with the Jets, a good moral victory for the Patriots here. And for the Broncos, what are you doing? I mean, you definitely had a prime position. I mean, you would have edged closer to maybe catching the Chiefs, as you know. We'll get into that right now with how disappointing they're looking, but right here, I'm gonna have to say right here, the Broncos playoff chances are definitely down in the mud.
Yeah, without that, what you said, this, sure, it was a nice win for the Patriots, but it's definitely hurting their draft stock. And then for the Broncos, with how well, they start to look on the rise, it's really going to hurt their playoff spot. So it's going to take a lot for them to make it now. Now, moving on to another surprise, which is another team that, really has a lot at stake here. The Kansas City Chiefs really going down to this Las Vegas Raiders team. I mean, let me just point out, Aiden O'Connell, this was his stat line. He went 9 for 21 on pass attempts, and I believe he had 60 yards, if I'm not mistaken, 60 or 90.
I mean, not one completion in the last
three quarters. And then one completion in the last three. After the first quarter, he did not complete the ball at all. And this was really the game for this defense. And I know I like to shit on this Raiders defense for how they played well, but these last couple of weeks where I'm really actually watching them, their defense is really, really coming up on the rise. It's a young team, especially with Jack Jones. That pick six that he got really set the tone for that defense. And then, Max Crosby, another underrated guy on the Raiders, are really good to overlook that as a top player in this league because, he plays for the Raiders. And then Antonio Pierce. Now, let's get into it. 4-3 as the coach. I really hope it's not another Rich Bisaccia situation where, Rich Bisaccia, he, set the culture for this Raiders team 2 years ago, sent it to the playoffs and kept a close game against a really good Bengals team. And, firing him, that really wasn't a smart move because everyone loved Bisaccia. And now Antonio Pierce, he's the same situation. Everybody loves Pierce, getting emotional after this win. And it's really nice to see with the Raiders, obviously all those jokes and, shit talking aside, Raiders, they really look well. And, they're really making a strong push for the playoffs. And even if their first round exits or, they barely miss it, come by next season, this Raiders team, it's going to look really, really well. And sure, I would say they're a quarterback away from being, a decently contending team. Because don't get me wrong, Aiden O'Connell, I still don't think he's the answer, let alone from this play, because the defense really put on the show for this Raiders team. That's really why they went away with this. And then looking at this Kansas City Chiefs team, excuse me, his offense is still continuing to struggle with his receivers and Patrick Mahomes not really getting to the level of playing field that he's really been doing. 6 losses already. 6 losses. That's the most losses he's had in his career. And, with the receivers, Tony, Travis Kelce, Marquez Valdez-Scantling not really giving up at all. And that O-line, that's another surprise. That O-line's not giving up at all. But what more can you do? Those interceptions from Mahomes, it's really not looking well. And then Andy Reid, I mean, I don't want to discredit Andy Reid, but, most of the play calling was a little bit questionable. But now this is something to see. Chiefs, they can no longer go for that 1 seed, especially with the Baltimore Ravens. So there's a lot of concerns that you need to draw for the Kansas City Chiefs team come playoff times.
Yeah, like you're saying, well, 1 seed no longer in play. Mahomes is, for the first time in his career, probably going to have to play a road game in the playoffs. So we'll have to wait and see how that looks for a pretty struggling Chiefs team. And of course, a game that had a lot of implications for you, Christian, here, and the Giants and the Eagles looking near the end of this one. Looking really scary. That I forget who it was, got that late 70-yard touchdown for the Giants, made this a 5-point game.
Sterling Shepard, there you go.
Shepard got a big touchdown to get this close, and sure, the Eagles made it a 3-point game, an 8-point game with a field goal, but I believe they left under a minute for the Giants to drive, and they did, which, again, a situation similar to the Panthers. I mean, they did get a snap off, but on that 4th down play to Darren Waller, a little confusing why he didn't jump up right away to give the ref the ball. Probably would have had enough time for another play, maybe get yourself a little closer, but obviously an interception to close that one out. Once again, very, very alarming play for the Eagles to see. I mean, that's just, their secondary. The secondary keeps looking like, just extremely subpar. You just see to let Tyrod Taylor cook you in that 4th quarter. Just like I'm saying, very alarming to see them play like that. I mean, sure, you can still look at Jalen Hurts' stat line and 300 yards for what? I mean, only himself got it 1 touchdown. Once again, the interception to himself getting into a little turnover narrative of his own. But I mean, overall, the Eagles offense, I guess you could say, they're maybe picking themselves up. I mean, sure, it's against the Giants, but I mean, a win's a win. A good performance counts the same against whoever. The offense is sure looking a little better, but they give up 25 points against the 2023 Giants. Definitely alarming. Definitely a bad look for the Eagles. And I believe they dropped down to the 3 seed, so it could be a tougher game for them moving forward.
Yeah, and also just quick correction for that touchdown. It was Darius Slayton actually that got that big touchdown. Just a little correction there, but that touchdown really did set the tone for him. And obviously, Eagles still out of. I really would be very heavily concerned for this Eagles team, let alone being really close to this Giants. And now closing out the Christmas special, which was another great, which would have expected a great game, but really turned out to be one-sided. This Baltimore Ravens team really got into Brock Purdy's head and really got to him 4 interceptions. When we're really looking at it should have been 7, but 2 of them were dropped. Ronald Darby was responsible for 1, I believe. Also, Hamilton and Humphries were responsible for some other ones. But yeah, Brock Purdy, I think your take on this earlier in the season, it's finally starting to become, I guess you could say, for real. I mean, if Purdy is a product of a system, sure, you can also make the argument, Donald came in this, with Purdy out, and the offense looked exactly the same with Donald, and they ended up getting a touchdown. They're driving the ball, looked exactly the same. But sure, you can say it's garbage time, and I guess you can say the Ravens weren't, necessarily trying since they were pretty much up, but there's still plenty of time for the Niners to come back, and it really was that. But that interception by Donald really sealed the deal. But that's a lot of draws to concern for this. And, Brock Purdy's MVP stock officially went down, and this is bringing up Lamar's MVP stock a bit. Obviously, a lot of people saying that, looking at Lamar's stats, they're not MVP stat-wise. Obviously, there's still 2 more games left. He's barely edging at 3,000 pass yards. I believe he's at 19 or a little bit over 20 touchdowns, if I'm not too mistaken. But for MVP level, to me, I don't think that's MVP wise. But like I said last week, the winner of this game really would determine their MVP stock, and this truly did. A lot of concerns to drop with this Niners team, especially with Purdy's level of play coming to playoff team with these high-powered teams. Baltimore was another team with a team that they faced finally, and Purdy, the defense of this Baltimore Ravens, very underrated, and it's very, very great. And they got to Purdy early in this game, really made them struggle, and this is exactly what they did. Look, this is the Baltimore Ravens team this is the team to beat in the AFC, and they're gonna look very, very deadly come playoff time.
Yeah, obviously, going right back to my original narrative, Purdy definitely looked exactly like Sam Darnold. So we'll see if they can actually hold on to that number 1 seed moving forward, as we see the rest of the NFC finally seems to be catching up little by little. Of course, that wraps up a very busy week 16. Lots of big surprises, lots of big games to just get wrapped up. And honestly, that sets up 2 more weeks of the regular season, 2 very important weeks. Obviously, before we get into that, our predictions, Christian, we only had 1 disagreement. It was that Bears-Cardinals game. So you did get to take the upper hand. Come a little closer, just 3 games behind me at 18-15 on our disagreements. But obviously, we'll move this into week 17. As I said, 2 weeks to go. Very important game for your Cowboys right here. Let's just get right into it.
Yeah, so put a quick rundown for this Cowboys team. Like I said, our defense overrated. It's looking very overrated. But looking at both these teams, these 2 defenses really struggling. So it's really going to be an offensive. It's going to be an offensive game. But we're at home, and this is where the Cowboys are really at their best, at home. And at Jerry's World, I mean, you brought it up a bit, Jared Goff, not really him doing anything at Jerry's World, and I would like to see that come true, and it's very much doable. But obviously, when you got weapons like Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jameson Williamson, that's where really Stephon Gilmore, Jerome Bland, they really got to be in their heels in this game. And then Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, those are another 2 really great backs. That pass rush of the Dallas Cowboys, they really need to contain it. We want to have a shot, possibly, I guess you could say blow them out a bit by a couple of possessions, but it's very, very doable at home. That once again, Dak Prescott, he's going to be the reason why this game is going to be, coming our way. The way he's been playing, same with CD. The only thing I'm really concerned about is once again the defense and Mike McCarthy's play calling come crunch down towards the end, because, like I said, he could have great play calling here and there that could really get us in the game, and then I don't know where he would just have a complete disaster class, shit the bucket. That's really what I don't like to see. Another concern for this is the O-line. Once again, this O-line is going to be it's going to really struggle, which I really hope it won't be. But obviously, with those things set aside, this is another winnable game for the Dallas Cowboys, and we must really, really win now, and a lot of other things to come play us out for that division. But obviously, just have to wait and see what Dak Prescott's going to do once again, carry this team on his back.
Yeah, so of course, I mean, I was very close to, picking the Lions. I was kind of leaning towards it for a bit, but, just like what we were talking about, can't really bet against the Cowboys at home this season. So I'm going to have to agree with you there. But of course, with my Rams, I guess, could maybe start to overlook it, but at the same time, I mean, it's still going to be a very, very important matchup here against the New York Giants. Obviously we see them kind of playing up to competition a little more as of late, but I mean, I'm just going to say from the start, I do expect a sizable win for the Rams. I'm expecting the defense hopefully to, settle down, really actually, come and actually play to a level that we expect them to. Maybe hopefully actually close the game out. It would really be it would be pretty freaking annoying if we let whoever it is, if it's Tyrod Taylor or Danny DeVito, come out and lead 2 drives to make this 5-point game at the end. So really hoping to see just everyone just fire on all cylinders. I would love to see like a good, a good 2-score win. I don't want to ask for too much. I'm just expecting a sizable enough win. I'd love to see the O-line keep up this phenomenal play. Obviously, I believe they've only let Stafford get sacked like twice in the past 2 games, something like that. Obviously, Stafford. I'm expecting him to really spread the ball out more. I don't really need Puka for fantasy no more. My season's been done for a while, so I would like to see Cooper Kupp be a little more involved. I mean, I know I've been saying it for long enough. The injury is what's been. He does get held back just a little bit, but hope to see him maybe start coming out of his shell. I keep saying this week after week, but I'm gonna keep saying it until it happens. I'd love to see Cooper get involved, but overall, not too much more. I mean, I think we can agree this is a pretty cut and dry game, but obviously you never know in this league. This win, I'm actually almost forgetting, but with this game, I know we can clinch if this game that I'm about to get into, if it goes my way, but we'll just have to wait and see for that.
Yeah, obviously, this is the Rams. It's really another game they really need to win here. And obviously, Tyrod Taylor ends up getting the start. Really expect a good game to be played here. Now, as for another game, which my game that my highlight game, there's another for 2 teams that were playoffs are really implicated here is the Packers and the Minnesota Vikings. And another thing to throw out here, Vikings, they're one weapon strong. I mean, it was just reported according to Schefter, T.J. Hockenson is officially going to miss out the remaining season with that ACL and MCL sprain. So that's going to be a really huge loss to I would say Nick Mullins and this team for this offense. He's been having a great season, pretty much helping him where he really needs to be. This is going to be another loss for them. And then for the Vikings, really, it's that quarterback position and Nick Mullins and how really he can turn down those turnovers. Like I said, this Green Bay team, that defense is what's really one of their weak points here in this whole season. That defense is really looking bad. That secondary getting cooked week in, week out. And with Justin Jefferson, he's really gonna have a field day with this Green Bay team. Don't get me wrong, who knows? Maybe even Powell and KJ Osborne, they could too. It's very doable. But with Jordan Love, sure, the struggles against the Carolina team, it looked bad on him. But with this Minnesota team and their defense, it could be an offensive shootout for both of them. Really, those defense, it's going to be a really big offensive battle if we really want to come to it. But for these 2 teams, especially coming to the division, one of these teams are obviously going to come out with the win here. And realistically, we obviously picked Minnesota to win this game, and it looks very much reasonable with the way Jordan Love. And that defense is really that's really holding them back. But this is really another big important game, really big implications for here. And Matt LaFleur, if they really want to win this game, he's really got to switch up that play calling just a little bit to actually make some decent calls that can help Jordan Love be more involved in the pass game.
Yeah, I mean, obviously losing T.J. Hockenson is going to be big for the Vikings, but in all honesty, I'm not expecting it to be that detrimental. I mean, I'm more worried about let's wait and see what happens with Jordan Addison. I don't know if it's been reported yet what his status was. Obviously, we saw him leave in the second or third quarter. I don't remember exactly, but I still definitely, like you said, I still expect the Vikings to come out of this, pretty handily. Now, of course, what I just alluded to, probably a little more outside the box, considering there's another pretty big game going on this week, but I'm going to highlight the Steelers and Seahawks. Very important game, more, I guess, personally for playoff implications, but I mean, Steelers still do have some fight left in them. Seahawks really fighting for that, whether they get into the 6 or 7 seed, but I'm expecting the Steelers to come out. I mean, whether it turns out being Mason Rudolph or if Kenny Pickett gets cleared, if they decide to roll with him, regardless of that, I think it's going to be a big part of if George Pickens actually, carries over what he did last week. Obviously, it was like what we were just talking about. It was just a big bounce back. Obviously, a little rough on you for fantasy, but I definitely still expect a good game. I mean, obviously, a big key matchup going to be against Reek Woolen. You would probably expect, or maybe Devon Witherspoon, but Still, I expect the Steelers offense to probably get a little bit of a step. Maybe Geno Smith does kind of go under the radar once again, and I do expect a really good defensive game for the Steelers. As you know, them also have been really one of the a big surprise, I guess, in the past. Last week, sure, and maybe in the past couple weeks. But obviously, like I said, a Seahawks loss here, a Rams win, that clinches us and gets us closer to maintaining a 6th seed. So, are there some personal biases into these picks? Maybe, but I think we both discussed it's very possible outcomes to look into here. Of course, that is going to wrap us up for our little mini preview of the week 17, and it's going to wrap up our video as a whole. So, like we said, getting into the thick of things, as you love to say, Christian, the December football is in full swing. Hope to, definitely going to have a lot of great to talk about going into this next week. And thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys can like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys back here for Bean Talk.